Good morning, everyone. We are jumping into what is going on in Middle Tennessee. And honestly, we're going to cover kind of all of Tennessee and a little bit of just the nation, giving you a month-to-month analysis of what is happening in the market. Again, while this is Tennessee based, a lot of this is going to be applicable to your local market and things like that. We're also going to go over objections and a bunch of other things. So make sure you tune in, stay to the end, because we have some live mortgage updates. We've got objections that have been happening, and then even helping you to create a plan on what to do with this data to turn it into more sales, to help more people. So we are jumping into that and everything else right now. Good morning, everyone. And again, this is Robert Bean, and I am your host of Scale Through the Fail, our special edition where we give you updates on what's happening in the Middle Tennessee market, because it's getting a little wild out there. And you might be thinking to yourself, okay, listen, I hear a lot of news. There's lots of things going on. What's the truth? What's the data telling us, right? Because at the end of the day, I wouldn't take anyone's opinion. I really wouldn't. People put their money where their mouth is. How they spend, applications, interest rates, all those things show us what's actually happening in real time. And that's what you've got to work with. So we're going to be jumping into the Middle Tennessee real estate update. But like I said before, if you're in West Tennessee, if you're in East Tennessee, a lot of this is going to apply to you. Some of the principles that you're going to see here are going to apply in any market. And even some of the objections we're going to go over will probably be applicable to you. So with that being said, let's kind of just give you a little bit of a rundown. A couple disclaimers first. This is live, so comments left can be seen by others and may get repurposed for social media content. Everything here is as data-driven as possible, but it's not perfect. And it does have some interpretations and opinions mixed in. That's just inevitably going to happen anytime a human touches something. So just remember, you are always the one responsible for doing your own research, and you should always help your clients know how to do their own research too and make their own decisions. What we're going to cover today is the month-to-month interest rates and how they're looking, what we're seeing. And then that'll help you to squash any client's fears about interest rates and affordability. We're going to show you key housing market stats, and that'll help you set realistic expectations and filter out procrastinators from those that are ready but just need some motivation. We're going to get into relevant objection handling. You'll be prepared to honestly address their fears and then turn them into motivated clients. Who's got clients who are afraid or uncertain? Absolutely. I'm going to show you how we use data to help them be on one side or the other when it comes to making a confident decision. And then just give you some mistake-saving tips. We'll just make sure that you don't leave money on the table and rob your clients of opportunities. We ain't going to have that happen. No way. What you will get from today, again, accurate interest and mortgage application data to the best of our abilities, accurate Middle Tennessee market data to the best of our abilities, and just clear ways to handle objections centered around market data and interest rates. If you leave not feeling this way, you didn't focus, you didn't take notes, you didn't ask enough questions. But here's the good news. I'm telling you this up front so that you know that you can silence your phone, remove those distractions, have a pen and paper to write on, and ask more questions. We will do a Q&A sometimes as we go. We might pull some questions from the comments and also a Q&A at the end. In fact, let's do a test run. Drop in the comments right now what city you are viewing from right now. Let's see it. What city? And if you're outside of Tennessee, what city and state? Super curious. Drop them in the comments. Do a test run. Make sure you know you're all involved. All right. Now, we are going to get into the state of the mortgage. I always like to kick things off with interest rates and mortgage applications and things like that, because I feel like that is just So much of what we do is alongside our partners over in the mortgage world. So that's why I'm going to bring on one of my favorite partners, Larry Lee. Good morning, Larry. How you doing, brother?
Morning, boss. Doing great. How are you doing, sir?
Man, I actually have a household full of sick people, so
Ooh.
it's been rough, but I'm here and we're getting into it, man. I don't have the what the mortgage is going on. I always feel like I need to say that every time I see you. But this is a different show, different show. So Larry,
Yeah.
let's talk about interest rates. What you seen as that highest over the last month?
Well, I've seen lots of different rates, but the one that I'm going to refer to is the one that was the highest for my business. Okay. 7.625. And of course, that's like, wow, that's really high. Well, it was also an investment purchase, and investments and second homes are going to be more normally compared to a primary purchase or a primary refinance, especially in this market, right? And from my perspective, it's because of inflation, like everyone's seeing. But also, I believe that if you look at rates from last year, there are other factors. And then when I say last year, I'm talking about like early 2022 and maybe even 2021. There are other factors driving rates down back then than they compared to what's happening today.
And talk to us a little about lowest, because I mean that looks pretty low right there compared to what we've seen as an average.
So 5.75%, again, this is referring to one of my clients' deals. This is for the past month, right? And they're all over the country, but for the most part, Texas is where I operate. So you have to kind of remember that this is Texas rates. Might be the same, might be different, but again, I can only talk on Texas, right? But this was an FHA rate, and it was locked after the bank failures. If you guys were paying attention, the bank failures happened pretty quickly. Multiple banks were failing kind of in concert, and because of that, it was more riskier to have your money invested in bank type investments, and people were running towards safer investments like bonds, which affected mortgage backed securities, which, of course, any purchases or increase in demand for mortgage backed securities helps lower the interest rates. The reason why it's lower than normal is usually FHA, VA, USDA government loans are always lower or usually lower than conventional rates. So this is almost like two different sides of the spectrum. You have an investment property with a 7.625, and then you have a uh, primary government purchase, which is 5.75. So that's why there's a little bit of a difference there. And yes, I put that. I was quick to pay attention to rate drops because every single day is different. Every single day, it's a moving train, right? And sometimes you get lucky, and there's like that drop because of whatever reason. In this case, bank failures, and I was able to take advantage of that. But we didn't see 5.75% interest rates for very long.
Yeah, I am not surprised at all. I think those will be kind of dream come true type of things, like perfect case scenarios. So let's talk a little bit about the average then, which I it's funny because I just love seeing this average because it is right where where I
It
said
is.
it would be, man.
It is. And this is a real average. I took 5 of my loans that I did last month, or I locked last month, let's put it that way. And that was my exact average. And I was going to change it to 6.675 because that's normally a number you would see, but I was like, I'm going to give it the pure number. And you're right, it's right on the money to what you were saying, right? And the way I look at it is, uh, I had extreme examples in my 5 loans that I locked. Rates were not, they're not slowing down at all, but because of little, again, let's call it disruptors, right? The bank failures, that was a disruptor, right? It was able to tick down. And, like you were saying earlier, it's good to be prepared because the new norm or new normal, whatever you want to call it, is going to be higher interest rate, 6.673. But as you can see, I was able to get a 5.75 because I was able to take advantage of one of those few disruptions or pattern interrupts or what you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
But again, this is investment properties, which of course will be higher rates, and primary government loans. So there's a
And a
little
couple
bit of
important things to mention too, just for anybody watching. I feel like I need to say this. To be clear, there is actually no cap on how high an interest rate can go. Just to be clear. So if you ever see a really high interest rate, like don't immediately be afraid. Always ask yourself, why was it there? Man, I've gotten interest rates that are 10%. It just depends on the property, the circumstances. So don't ever be afraid of that. Interest rates can go on forever. It's an infinite number, right? Because there's infinite numbers, right? And just to be clear too, on the low end, technically, okay, we're talking more of averages, but technically, interest rates can go negative.
Yep.
You can have a negative interest rate. That is literally
Yes.
where you're getting paid, right? So
Yes.
the reason why I say that is just because I want people to understand, just because we show averages, highest and lowest, and they always fall in this range, does not mean. In fact, one of the stories, remember we covered Mark Zuckerberg, and he had a 1.98% interest rate, right? Not that we're all Mark Zuckerbergs, but listen, what I'm saying is that there's always options and ways to figure out things. And also, just because an interest rate is higher than the highest doesn't mean it's a bad deal. One of the interest rates I got quoted on was 9%, but it was for an investment property. And even at 9%, it would pay for itself.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So the reason why I just wanted to mention that real quick. And then the other part too is it's very important to see the highest and investment purchase. That's important because if you don't know the context of the interest rates and why they are the way they are, you're going to get scared. You're going to see
Mm-hmm.
that highest and think, oh, that was just some sweet family who just didn't have the money or something and they got screwed by interest rates. Man, that's an investor out there hustling.
Mm-hmm.
That's someone out there making more money. And so
Yes.
you need to know what these numbers apply to. That's why we give context. That's why we don't just put the numbers here and move on. We give you the context. So I just wanted to say that because I feel like it's important to mention that. For everybody listening, what are some of the interest rates that your clients have been seeing? Leave me a comment. I'm very curious. Generally, I know what the interest rates are because usually I'm looking over and being involved with the loan officer. So I would love to hear from you guys over the last month or two. What are some of the highest, the lowest that you're seeing with your clients?
Yeah, and I want to provide some legitimacy real quick. There are places right now, maybe not today, but there were places where the negative interest rate was actually happening. Like there are countries that were paying you to borrow money, right? So
Yeah.
not the United States, probably in somewhere in Europe, but there's countries that are paying you to borrow money from them. So it does exist. It is a possibility.
And again, the reason why I say that is because I always believe context is key. And I don't want
Mhm.
people to look at something normal and say that's the way it applies to everyone all the time.
Mhm.
And it's like, listen, if 9% interest rate gets you an investment property that keeps you profitable, don't shut it out just because it's above 7%.
Yep.
And then at the same time, oh, just because the average is 6.67 or whatever we just said, right? 6.67. Hey, look at that. Just because that's an average does not mean that will be everyone's number, right? Your clients may be in a really favorable position with their credit scores, with their down payment, with the type of property, with their debt to income ratios. They might get below that. That's why it's so important to have a proactive expert loan officer in your corner who jumps in with you and they explore every option and every outcome that could possibly be as best to their abilities, custom to your clients. So mortgage applications, man, are up.
Yes, they're up.
I'm liking that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the amount of applications I've received in the past month or so, it might be more than the rest of the year. So what I mean by that is March compared to January, February, I'm sorry, April compared to January, February, March, it might actually be more in April than I did the rest of the year. So it's pretty crazy.
That is
Um,
crazy.
yeah, and I think it's because people, of course, they need to buy houses in general, right? And it's buying season, right? Season, right? Spring, summer. That's usually when people decide to move. And people, I believe, and I don't like the word "the new normal." I don't like that phrase, but it's the truth. And I think people are realizing that rates are not going anywhere. They've been waiting, right? They're like, okay, rates are kind of high. I'm gonna wait for them to go because they were low last month. They were in the fours last month or 6 months ago. So they're for sure gonna go back to the fives and fours and threes eventually, right? But eventually it's starting to become never because it hasn't happened yet, right? And people are realizing that they can't wait anymore. They have to move. And now they have no choice but to accept the rates, and they've basically tolerated them. And
Yeah.
they might have to adjust in terms of their purchase price or adjust in terms of what they plan to do. Maybe their funds have to be kind of allocated differently. Like maybe instead of putting 20% down, they're putting 10% down and using the rest of 10% to buy down the rate, whatever, right? People are adjusting, but they're realizing that they have to accept the way things are. and they have to just move. I mean,
So, Larry, let's establish a couple things because I think it's important. And I think whether you're an agent that's listing, by the way, if you're an agent, type agent in the comments. I want to know if we have how many agents we've got viewing in, and then if you're what do you call it? Just a consumer. I hate that word. It sounds so like
I call
cold.
them civilians.
If you're a civilian, and can spell the word, because man, I always feel like, wait, where's the there's another I there somewhere. Drop it in the comments. I want to know, agent or civilian. So, Larry, I think we need to establish a couple things that are important. And I think we can't talk about them or repeating them is always healthy for us. So,
Yes.
when we're talking about preparation, taking advantage of the market, when someone goes and gets a pre-approved with a loan officer, is that a commitment to lock in a rate, put down money, or anything like that?
No, it is literally the exact opposite, right? And what I mean by that is we get pre-approved is literally just knowing where you stand and someone vouching for you, right? And let's put it this way: there was a time where you can make offers without having a pre-approval. There was a time, right, where you can actually say, "I want to buy this house. I'm making an offer. Here's the contract," and they accept it, right?
Pre-approvals really came into style after the crash.
Yeah, yeah.
It was
Pre-approvals.
prequels after that. Oh, you make $100,000? Really? You don't even have a car, but okay.
Yep,
I
yep.
won't verify anything.
Yes, yes. There was a time where they didn't verify anything, and it is what it is, right? If you qualify or you didn't. Of course, because of the market, and of course because the competition, people were finding ways to, how do I stand out? Well, I'm gonna get myself pre-approved, or I'm gonna get my clients pre-approved, or whatever, right? And that became the thing, right? So in reality, you can make offers without pre-approvals and still get the contract. So uh, it's one of those things where it it's not a commitment in any way, shape, or form, right? It's
People tend to
more.
get hesitant about it. And
Yeah.
I see even sometimes agents get hesitant because they're worried about their clients kind of being resistant to getting pre-approved. But it's one of those things that I look at it and I'm like, it will be very hard for you to do anything other than waste time if you don't know where you're at.
Yeah, and I just saw a meme earlier today, which makes a lot of sense. I can't wait to share it, where it says, yes, go ahead and go look at houses that you possibly cannot afford so that you can be happy making offers on houses that you can't afford, right? It's almost like you fall in love with a dream house and then you find out you can't afford it. So are you going to really be happy with the house that you actually truly afford? I mean, that's really smart to do it that way, right? And of course, it's sarcastic, right? The idea is,
Obviously, yeah.
yeah, to know where you're at, know what to expect, and then shop in that range. Now, you might be able to qualify for the same or more, but how do you know for sure unless you get pre-approved? So, of
So long
course.
story short, people, please go get pre-approved.
Mhm.
I think there's there's a little bit of there's a little bit of too much friendliness, I believe, and I might get some slack for this. And if you guys agree or disagree with me in the comments, tell me, agree or disagree, and tell me why. I believe that real estate agents play the BFF role, best friend forever role, a little too hard.
Mhm.
The reality is that you do people injustice by getting their hopes up.
Yep.
I do believe that that's wrong. And I think that when you go and show them a wide range of houses that they likely can't afford and use that as a way to try and convince them to get pre-approved,
Mhm.
that is really kind of almost manipulative.
Yep.
It's like, I know you shouldn't be doing this right now, but I'm going to let you go do something that's going to cause negative effects on you versus just learning how to get them to do it. I almost never have I had an issue with someone getting pre-approved. Does that mean that was always easy? No. But usually it just means I have to dig deeper
Mhm.
and figure out what their fears and hesitations are. Most of the time, people are just afraid. They're afraid that it's a commitment. I'm not ready to go get pre-approved. I'm not ready for my credit score to be dinged. I'm not ready for these things. And it's like, well, first of all, if you're worried about a pre-approval crushing your credit score, we have a different conversation. And that
Yes.
actually proves even more how important a pre-approval is because it
Mhm.
sounds like you're riding a very fine line. And
Yep.
we need to
Absolutely.
address that, right?
Yep.
And so I just want to remind agents, hey, listen, remember that you are a guide first, not a friend. You
Yep.
are a guide. You're there to protect them, protect their time, protect their money, but also to set realistic expectations. It's why we do shows like this. It's why we do Scale Tip to Fail every Friday. It's why my team meets every Monday and we talk about the hard facts, the reality of what we're facing, so we can do good by others.
Yeah, I believe that if you're afraid of losing, I mean, the most you can lose is 5 points, by the way. Okay. But if you're afraid of losing 5 points, then you might not qualify to buy a house anyways, if that's what your biggest fear is, right? People who have great credit, excellent credit, they're not worried about it. They get pre-approved right away because they're not worried about losing 5 points. And normally people with great credit don't lose that much, right? So there should be a red flag for you as agents if someone's unwilling to get pre-approved, unwilling to get the credit pulled because they're afraid of what's going to happen. Yeah, that's a red flag. That's a person that you definitely want to get pre-approved before you start showing them houses for sure.
Yep. All right. Let us talk about the good and bad that you saw last month, man. So you shared something good. What'd you see?
Uh, Something that real estate agents did that I thought was good was I had an agent who was the agent for one of my pre-approvals. They created competition by saying that they want to shop, they want their clients to shop for another lender, right? Which in this situation, it actually benefited the client, which was good. I lost it, right? Because I was just trying to get them locked right away because I was afraid of rates, being volatile, right? So I locked it, but maybe I locked it too early because this agent was able to get their clients a lower rate somewhere else when the rates actually kind of went down in their favor. So I lost that deal. So I thought that was a good thing, right? Even though I lost it, I think it's in the best interest of the client. They should always try to get the best deal possible. Then
And
bad thing
remember,
is that
bet steal is not just always rate. And in fact, rates are often just a little carrot in front of you.
yep.
Just like a high priced offer with bad terms can screw
Mhm.
you over than a low priced offer with a good terms. So just remember that, agents. Um, your client comes to you and they're excited. This lender, this credit union, this whatever said that they're going to give me a 5% and the average is 6.5%, right? Rate. This is going to be amazing. Read that fine print
Mhm.
and then go to a mortgage broker and say, can you beat it?
Yes.
Listen, you're not loyal to. They don't have to be loyal to anyone other than who they choose to be loyal to. And I know that that's a stigma. I know that there's a lot of loan officers who really don't like that. But I believe in second opinions, and also
Yep.
I believe in giving opportunities. To be honest, loan officers don't want people to shop rates unless they're the one they're shopping the rate with, and they're
Mhm.
getting a shot that they wouldn't
Yep.
have had that client stayed loyal. So let's not
100%.
be hypocrites here, okay? Let's not be hypocrites here. And remember that if you are the best fit, then you're the best fit
Mm.
and it will work. And it'll work. So the bad. Let's talk about the bad, man. What happened?
Well, and you're right about the whole like look at the fine print. I didn't get a chance to see if they did get a better deal, but in the eyes of the client, they got a better deal, which is ultimately what matters, right? The bad
Perception is
is,
reality.
yeah, but the bad thing is they delayed the closing for a couple weeks. They refused to, like, the agent refused to cooperate with us. They refused to give us the information that we needed because they're like, we're shopping rates, and it was like 2 weeks of delaying, which is not good, especially for like a VA loan where it takes a while for appraisals and such, right?
Oh, Larry,
Uh,
before we jump into the bad, we got a great comment to read. Facebook user, drop your name, by the way, so we can give you credit. They say, I have a question about shopping around for lenders. Is it better to contact several lenders directly or use a shop around service that you may see on social media?
if you're asking me, my opinion is you should directly shop lenders yourself, right? The reason why is because you literally are putting them to the test. Like, let's say you have two lenders, lender A, lender B, right? And I coach my clients and my agents on how to do this, right? You have lender A, lender B. You tell both of them, hey, I just want to let you know that I do have other lenders that are working on this. So, we want to work with you, obviously, but we have other lenders who we're also shopping rates with. Not only will that make that lender that you're talking to do their very best to deliver the best service possible, they basically step up their game because they know they're being competed against, right? But they also provide the best rates as they can as possible, right? They're not
Right.
going to
Best
mess
foot
around.
forward.
Yeah, best foot forward. So you want two lenders who know that they have to put their best foot forward, because then you'll be in a better situation by doing that. With the shop around service, there's no guarantee that you're going to get the best rate with that. Basically, lenders are just going to give whatever they give and not know that they're actually competing against someone else. So I think that it's, and I also encourage that you, again, tell the lender, hey, I just want to let you know there are other lenders that we're working with. And if that lender is not willing to fight, you don't want that lender anyways, right? But
Right.
they're willing
And
to
that
fight.
doesn't mean the lender's wrong, by the way, for not wanting to fight for it. All that means is that it wasn't a good fit for one reason or another. So just remember that too.
Yep.
Don't say that lender. Listen, I've had a good lender before who didn't fight for a certain type of client that was still a great option for a different client later on.
Yep.
So just remember
Absolutely.
that. So let me jump
Absolutely.
in, Shane. Glad to have you here, buddy. Thanks for tuning in live, man. Always appreciate you. This is a very good question. So I'm going to give you a couple thoughts from an agent perspective as well. One is I think you need to know who's the best of the best in their particular category. And then you start with the best. Okay. When you shop around, don't shop around in the dollar store, right? Okay. Because the only thing you're going to find in there is cheap stuff that's going to break on you. Okay. And so what I mean by that is that you don't go shop around at Rocket Mortgage. I'm going to be real with you. Don't do that. Not only are your clients going to get spammed unbelievably for the rest of their life, but the amount of horror stories that come from Rocket Mortgage, and I hope I don't get defamation from this. If I do, then I take it all back and I was wrong, and forgive me. I'll shed some tears. But in comparison to having someone who you made that mistake personally. Yeah, see, right? In comparison to having someone who is devoted to you and has something to lose is very important, right? It's very, very important to have someone who is, whether they live down the street from you or not, who is a local expert in the understanding of what it means to personalize and explore every option available to your client specifically. Rocket Mortgage can't do that. Even if they wanted to do that, they can't. Corporations are not structured to be able to give that type of service. It's impossible. As someone who worked with Fortune 500 companies, I can tell you that there were some great ones who genuinely cared, but they can't deliver that. A good loan officer, like a good real estate agent, is going to know the ins and the outs, is going to work tirelessly to figure out a deal. So when you go land, don't go to your residential guy who doesn't even sell land and ask him, because the chances are he's not going to have the experience or the product. You should have a land loan officer who's great at lending on land. Very rarely, if ever, have I found a typical residential loan officer who could beat out a specialized land loan officer, not to mention expertise. Expertise is really important. Land is different than residential, right? Investment properties are different. No agent, just like no lender, is a one and done. I can do everything the best. And so personally, I think you need to build your arsenal of contacts who are the best of the best in their field. And then when you go and a client says, I want to go buy an investment property, you don't send them to the land guy. You break down, you say, who are the best partners? Let's start with them, right? And then who are the second best? Who is likely could put this person, make them take a run for their money, right? Put some competition on them. So Shane, does that answer your question? Does that help? Let us know in the comments while Larry talks about the delayed closing.
Yes. So the delayed closing was, this agent was so bent on making sure that they got the best deal that they refused to let us do our job, right? I think you can do both. You know what I'm saying? Let's put it this way. Let's say I order the appraisal, because that's one of the things that they're trying to prevent us from doing. If I order the appraisal, especially for the VA, and they find a lender that's better, we can always transfer the appraisal over, right? And a good lender will do that with no problems, right? Also, it's almost like they're required to, right? So like if another lender is involved, they say, hey, we're asking you to transfer the VA file to us, we have to, because that's on the request of the client, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's one of those things where like the agent was probably not experienced as to how things work, and I looked them up, so I know for sure he was experienced, right? But they were experienced that they probably could have still let us do our job, so that at least there was no delay, there's no time loss, and they could still pivot lenders if they wanted to. So that it was good that they were fighting for their clients, but they did it incorrectly, is my opinion.
All right, let's talk about an objection that you particularly had, which is I'm afraid to buy because rates are so high. Before we
Mhm.
get into kind of how we handle this, right? Which I'm going to let Larry share kind of how he handles it. Um, for everybody in the leave a comment on if you have any clients or leads with an objection like this. I'm afraid to buy because rates are so high. In other words, rates are too high. Rates are too high. I think I'm going to get screwed over. I think this is a bad time. Insert problem. Drop a comment if this is something you resonate with, right? This objection right here. And then I always like to rank these objections from easy, medium, and hard. I think this is a medium. And in actuality, I think this is easy. But what makes it medium is your consistency as an agent. You need to study the market month over month, establish trends, and then consistently and naturally educate your leads and clients about it. That takes time, consistency, and focus, right? And that is not something, I'm going to be real here, that is not something real estate agents are known for. Time management, consistency, and focus, not a chance. If they were, the results would look a lot different, right, in our market. And in fact, there'd be a lot more broke agents actually, because the top 20% that do all the sales would be sharing more of that pie. So you'd have less rich agents and less poor agents, and you'd have like a much more average. But it is undoubtedly skewed towards those who manage their time well and are consistent and focused. So Larry, how do you handle objections like this?
So that's a very typical, I would say, objection.
It's
What
typical even when it was 3%.
Yeah, yeah, it is, and they're afraid of making a bad decision is what they're really afraid of. They're afraid they're gonna buy in the 6s or 7s, and then next month it's gonna go into 5s, right? So they're afraid of because it's unpredictable. Um, so my objection or my rebuttal to that objection is, well, number one, if you can afford it, right? If you can handle it, if you can deal with it, then really it's just an emotional decision at that point, not a financial decision, right? Obviously, if you want more house, right, you might not have an easier time versus having lower rates. But the truth of the matter is, you can always add more towards the down payment or whatever to kind of adjust for that, right? But again, I do know that your buying power is being affected by the fact that the rates are high, right? But what I say, and I try to be very matter of fact about this, I'm like, listen, to me, who's the best person to follow or listen to when it comes to buying houses? It would be investors, because investors are professionals at buying houses. This is what they do for a living. This is what they do on a daily basis. They're the ones who are constantly in the market buying. You buy a house maybe once every 7 years. They're buying 1 or 2 houses, maybe 3 houses a year. So obviously, I would follow what they're doing compared to like grandma who bought the house 20 years ago, right?
Yep.
And investors are buying like crazy. Like out of the last 10 loans that I did, 7 of them are investors, right? So
And
why
that's
is
been
that?
a trend for you, actually. You've been reporting on that pretty consistently over the last 3 months.
Yeah, investors are buying constantly. I mean, I have had more investors buy in this market than they did in the 2021 market. Okay. Uh, and again, they're professional home buyers, so they know when it's a good time to buy, and they know that's when prices are low, right? Because you can't change pricing. Once you agree under contract what you're paying, that's set in stone for the rest of your life. 30 years from now, when you pay off the house, you still pay the same amount on that
Yeah,
contract.
that
That
purchase price.
that doesn't change at all. But rates do change. Okay. So they're making a very smart decision in trying to get the permanent situation as low as possible. And the temporary situation, they can always adjust. Right. So the saying that we say is date the rate, marry the price. Right.
Mhm.
So dating the rate means you're not committed to it. You can always change it later when it makes sense. But the price you have to marry, you can't change that. Right. So again, they're buying when rates. They love high interest rates because the competition is less. You can negotiate more with the sellers, right? You're going to demand more. You're not
Literally,
working.
yeah. The more that people show they're afraid, the more that this objection is being said by the average person, right? The more opportunity there is for a professional to come in and negotiate a better deal, because
Mhm.
they already know that the likelihood that this person already has the fear mindset. So
Yep.
when someone's afraid, they're more likely to do desperate things instead of think things through, act logically, research the data. They're more likely to be like, yes, I'll pay all closing costs and under asking price. Seller financing is a big thing in the investment space. Like, I'll do all of these things. And it's like, had they just taken a deep breath, looked at the data, looked at the facts, they'd be like, no, I get your offer, but here's where I really belong. Sarah, by the way, Sarah Tim says all the time she gets this objection. Guys, literally, I know people who had a 2% interest rate and still said it was too high.
Yep.
I
Yep.
bet you if you asked Mark Zuckerberg with his 1.9, he said that was too high.
Yep.
We like money, let's be real, which means that any time that we have to pay money out, we've already feel like we pay too much.
Yep.
And if we can save, we always want to save. Facebook user over here, let me know if this is your comment with your name. Yes, I hear it a lot, but it was like 20% plus years ago. So it can keep going up. I'd get in now and have it half paid off rather than rent for 10 or 15 years, hoping they're back down to 3 to 4%.
Yep.
Oh man, if you do the math scenarios on these things, which Larry, you and I should do some content around the math scenarios. I mean, almost every single time it pays off, as long as you can afford to, it pays off to buy, regardless of interest rate. I'm not even kidding. People who bought when interest rates were 15% are still better off than people who aren't buying or haven't bought at all.
Yep.
And again,
100%.
we're saying averages. We're not talking about the profitability. Affordability is always, so just know that. Then the same Facebook user, I don't know, says, yes, that's my main argument. Prices, permanent rate can be changed later. Not only that, there's different products, right? You might start out with a residential loan and move into a HELOC. There's just so many different things. This is why, as an agent, we need to be educated and consistent in how we teach people, because it's an ever evolving, growing situation. And then one thing I want to touch on this, because I'm spending way too much time, as I always do, is where you get your advice from is important. You have to remember that the average person is not listening to a professional, whether that's a professional investor, a professional loan officer. So when I say professional, I just mean an actually skilled loan officer who knows their stuff, who's consistently. The average agent does not perform well. So even if they're getting their advice from a real estate agent, statistically, it's unlikely they're getting an advice from a real estate agent who actually knows what they're doing. And I know that's a little bit insulting, but it opens up opportunity, because if that's you, and if it's not you, you can still change all of this today. You can be a light in the darkness. Be the professional they get their advice from. If you had to, what do you think people would be more likely to listen to? An amateur or a professional? Oh, hey, by the way, I played t-ball when I was a little kid. Or, hey, I am literally one of the top paid, baseball players in the world. Who do you think people are going to listen to? But right now, they got a bunch of little t-ball kids running around them in their corner. They got t-ball kids on the news telling them how the real estate market works. They got t-ball kids sitting down with them at coffee and at church telling them how bad everything is, while the professional athletes are out there scoring goals. Right? I'm mixing up all my
your analogies
stuff today, but that's just to keep you on your toes, obviously. So just remember, always acknowledge their struggles, label and ask questions, don't info dump, and work more leads and clients. You don't have to fight someone. Don't fight anyone to work with you. Educate them into a relationship to where they feel that they can trust you, and it's time. All right, we got to move on. Larry, if you want to stick around for the state of the housing market, you are welcome. If you got to run, you got to run. I know I've already kept you on for like 40 minutes. But any final thoughts in the mortgage side of things?
I want to stay, but I'm going to tell you something that my wife says, because I didn't offer her objection, but it was really quick, right? My objection is a little bit more data driven, and I try to be more empathetic. My wife, and she's a loan officer, but she doesn't sell like I do. She would be like, do you plan to live in the house for 30 years? And they'll be like, no. Then she'll be like, then why are we talking about rates? And that's literally her way of rebutting that objection. Why are we talking about rates? You don't plan to live in 30 years. And she's kind of attitude about it, right? Like, why are we talking about rates? Come on now, you know? So, but that's not the objection I'm telling you to give. But that's really the mentality you should have. They're not going to be there for 30 years. And this is what investors know. They know that they're not going to be paying that rate for the next 30 years. So why are they even worried about it? Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's really the way you should look at it. But yeah, I'll stay for the rest of the show for sure.
Awesome. Well, guys, let's get into the state of the housing market. This is where we get into the nitty-gritty details of what's actually happening. Before we get into it, I'm going to ask you guys a couple questions, and I would love for you to leave a comment. Be honest, because the whole reason we do this is so we grow together. How many of you know month over month where the median sales prices are? Is it better? Is it worse? Did it go up? Did it go down? How about new listings, homes for sale, pending sales, closed sales, median days on market? How about median percentage of original list price? Oh, Robert, that's a lot of data. Why would I need to know that? Because if you can't tell your client what's actually happening, if you don't know how you're supposed to set realistic expectations. Well, a house like this should take 30 days to sell. Well, does the data support that? Hey, this price seems like a good price. Okay, but does the data support that? So that's why we do this. I did the work for you, right? Now, obviously, go and fact check me. Go and apply to your regular local market. I'm just doing some averages for you, picking a couple counties and entire MLS. So let's get into it. First, we need to define a couple things. Median. We use median instead of average in almost every single case. Average is almost always the worst thing you can use when it comes to real estate related data. Average is terrible. In fact, my own MLS has an average report that they do, and I'm like, it's just garbage. This is useless information. Like, you cannot use averages because it includes everything. It includes everything, and it creates really polarized, confusing data. So we use median, where half the homes sold in any given area that month were cheaper and the other half more expensive, and it creates a median. It's generally regarded as the most useful when looking at prices because it helps prevent outlying metrics from messing it all up. Percentage of original list price. A lot of agents don't know this term, so this is why I like to use this. It's always median. It's used to show the percentage that the home sold for versus how much it was listed for originally. This is so you can learn. Someone lists a price at 300. What is it actually selling for, though? That's important to know. Is it selling for more? Is it selling for less? Right on the money? We need to know these things. If you're taking on a listing, if you're helping a buyer buy something, you need to know. If everything's selling above, you need to sell clear, realistic expectations for your buyers who turn around and say, let's offer 30 under. And you go, listen, the data shows this, right? This is why we follow that. And then averages. I only put it there because I felt like I need to put there, but we don't even use it. So we're moving on. Let's talk about the actual data now. All right. Median sales price, entire MLS, 385. That's down 2.5% year over year. I didn't have my month over month stats this morning. I had sick kids, so forgive me, guys, for that. But year over year, but month over month, we're actually up $5,000. So in 1 month, if you had a home, you just went up $5,000 overall in the entire MLS. That's pretty solid. You didn't even do anything, right? And I'm going to assume for most of you, $5,000 is more than your mortgage payment. So that's nice that you're going up in equity. And that's still a pretty amazing climb. We see Davidson. Davidson actually went down slightly. That's a correction. Davidson is Nashville and things like that. We talked about it. The metro cities actually tend to be kind of wild because they have a lot of different things going on. And then Rutherford, we see some corrections. Now, why is this happening? Rates have been volatile and a little high lately. So it makes sense that there would be a slight compensation adjustment in home prices. It just makes sense, guys. If rates go up, home prices definitely adjust and accommodate for that. Rates go down, home prices go up. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's not always black and white, but that's pretty common. Would you agree, Larry?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely, 100%.
Okay. So let's talk about new listings. This means new listings on the market, not ones that are currently on the market, but brand new ones. Okay. So we're seeing a decline across the board. We've already talked about this. This is trying to make up for the craziness that has happened. But if we look at it from a month-over-month perspective, last month, March, is what we're basing this off of, and then April. So in March, we had 5,815 new listings. And here in April, we had 5,404 new listings. That's pretty impressive. That's very interesting. So when we look at that, I would encourage you guys to turn around, and this is why we need to know the data. If you just read this by itself, that looks pretty bleak. Would you agree, Larry?
Mhm.
29 it's down
It looks
29.9%,
bad. Yes, for sure.
right? Everybody watching, that looks bad, right?
Mhm.
But then you realize, wait a second, we are turning around and we're still seeing that there's a pretty solid amount of new listings happening. When a market crashes, you would see a huge plummet. Huge plummet. But we're still over 5,000 new homes being listed in April. 5,000 opportunities for you to go make the minimal amount of money you need to make. Let me ask you this, guys. Do you need to sell 5,000 homes in a year to pay your bills, to meet your goals? Or is it more like 10, 20, 30? Well, let me tell you then, okay? You had a whole bunch of opportunities. You had 5,000 plus opportunities that just popped up for you to go make that money. So don't you be worried. Don't you be worried. You just need to sit there and say, man, how do I tap into that 5,000? Because they are there, man. And I love seeing these numbers because it makes me very optimistic and hopeful. So moving on. This is basically a vertical move. Like there was a slight adjustment, but percentage wise, it's almost exactly the same. New listings last month, minus 24.9%. New listings this month minus 29.9%. Not a huge. In fact, in Davidson County last month, 27.6, and in Davidson this month, it's 27.3. Right. So you guys see why the trends are so important.
Mhm.
It's so important to understand this. It's very, very important. And I hope you're starting to see that homes for sale are actually up overall, which means your buyers have got some options on the table. Come on now. I remember a couple years ago, they were complaining they didn't have enough options. There was nothing. Well, listen, you have got a whole bunch, 12,760, and that's just in Middle Tennessee. You throw in East Tennessee, you throw in West Tennessee, we're going to see a lot of options on the table. That is fantastic. That is good news for your buyers. That
Mhm.
is very good news. And you know what's crazy? Why we know trends? Look at Rutherford over there with their 20.5% increase. Rutherford is popping, man. Like, what the heck? It's pretty wild. And that's good to know. Why is that good to know? You know where the attention is being focused, the money is being focused, where the growth is. Guarantee you, Rutherford's appreciation rate is unstoppable right now. Unstoppable. All right. Pending sales. This just means like under contract but haven't closed yet. And we're going to kind of loop in closed sales into this because literally they're kind of hand in hand. There tends to be less closed sales than pending sales because most pending sales, you still have drop-off rates, right? Some things just don't close. But we're kind of looping them in together just in the explanation of why they are where they are. Just like home prices, we've seen areas that decrease, areas that increase. In pending and closed sales, it's fairly normal given the current market conditions.
Mhm.
But what we're seeing month over month in the pending sales is still really solid. In fact, here's what's really interesting, guys. Okay. So remember how we talked about new listings and there was about a 400 decrease month over month in new listings, right? Everybody follow me on that one? It's okay if you didn't. I'm repeating myself. I want to make sure you follow me because this is very interesting. So we saw 5,404 new listings this month, but in March, it was 5,815. Very interesting. Now, here is where we turn around and look at the numbers. We look at pending sales for March, and we see 4,815. We see pending sales for April, and it's 4,717. The gap shrunk immensely by several hundred homes. What that's telling us, right, is that maybe the quality and the seriousness of buyers have gone up.
Mhm.
There seems to be there may be less homes available, but it seems like the buyers that are out there are actually getting out there and doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at it, you have all these increase of homes and then you see a decrease of new listings. My brain tells me, man, okay, less people are going to be buying. Market sentiment. The data says actually those who are buying, right?
Mm-hmm.
Those who are out there in the market are buying, and the gap of month over month is actually closing in despite the fact that new listings has decreased. Does that make sense, guys? Tell me if that makes sense. Leave a comment if there's something confusing. Remember, ask questions. Let me expand for you. Sometimes I say something out loud. I'm like, that totally makes sense. And people are like, what did you even say? That was just, soup, word
It,
soup.
it it sounds like, and this is me from a simplistic mindset, because I'm a lender, I'm not a real estate agent. It sounds like what you're saying is that even though there's less listings, right? There's more people buying. So obviously there's going to be sort of a compound effect where there's less listings, but there's more people buying. So that's why the numbers are kind of skewed a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
right? You're saying that if we had the same amount of buyers, then we might see the same amount of listings, but because we had more buyers, a quality buyer or serious buyers, we're seeing less listings available. That's what it sounds like. More demand means less supply available, is
Yep.
what I think I'm hearing what you're saying.
Absolutely. You're spot on. Now, I need to talk about a couple other things because trends are everything, just so you know. And in particular with closed sales, let's be real here. The goal is a closed sale. All the other data is cool, but at the end of the day, we want to get paid. We want our clients to close in their home. We want everybody to get on with their life. Can we all agree to that? Say hallelujah in the chat
Hallelujah.
if you agree, because that is where I'm at, man. I want to make money. I want my clients to win. And I want everybody to continue on with their lives and just move forward. Trends are important. We're going to focus on trends going on in closed sales right now. Okay. So closed sales, you look at this and you go, oh no, Lordy, it's
Sarah,
going down. It's
Sarah
not
says
looking good.
hallelujah.
Right. But let me teach you a little bit about why this is important to examine. Okay. This is a big deal, what I'm going to do for you. So first, we're going to go with March. Okay. Oh, Sarah says, hallelujah.
Yep.
I can't wait till I really just have this like a sound bite for everything. And I'll just have a hallelujah type of thing. Okay. So listen, we're going to do the same comparison I gave you, and I'm about to blow your mind. So just get ready for this. Okay. Closed sales in March. Like we said, we already know it's down month over month. Oh no. In March, we had 4,426 closed sales. Rip, right? Man, we down because in April, we're looking at 3,733. Now, who initially thinks that looks like crap?
I do.
Right? Like initially, just our initial thoughts. I'm not talking about
Yes.
your analytical one. That looks like crap. Here's what's important, guys. Check this out. Let's go to February. What did February closed sales look like? 3,205. And in April, 3,733. Well, wait a second. That's creating a trend for us. Check this out. January, 2,589. Back to April, almost an entire 1,000 increase in closed sales. So why is March so weird? This is why we study consecutively, month over month, and not just pick and choose data pieces. Context is key. We've talked about this on our news show on Fridays, 9 a.m. Central, live. Bank failures. What happened in March? I'm sorry, what happened in April? Tons of bank failures. We saw rates drop to some of their lowest that they've been in the last 6 months even.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
We saw uptick in closed sales and pending sales. Well, why was that? Because rates dropped. So more people went on there, got locked, put them under contract, and closed the sales. But what we care about is January, February, and April. The sentiment overall is showing us that people are still buying in an increasing rate. More sales are closing, not less. That's good, guys. Give me another hallelujah in the chat because that is good news. Who will agree
Hallelujah.
with me that's good news? Thank you. Good news, man. January, 2,509. But by the time we hit April, we had 1,000 more sales. This is good news, and this is why studying the data is so important, because now you can go to your clients who are afraid and uncertain and say, listen, I got good news for you. It's not bad news. And you know how you know I'm not lying, guys? You can go to your MLS right now. I'm using Real Tracks. You can go to yours. You can fact check me. This comes from the MLS. This is not some guru who's trying to convince people to buy his coaching program and everything's prosperity gospel. This is just the data. I'm reading to you live. I'm reading it to you live. This teaches us. So this is why it's so important, okay? All right, I hope I didn't go too overboard on that, but I hope that the message was really clear for you, that the sentiment is up. More people are putting them under contract overall, and more people are closing those deals overall. As a trend, consistently, it's moving up in a positive direction. Okay, moving on. Median days on market. All this means is how long are the homes selling in the market before they're closed, right? Before they're sold. Okay, so this continues to go up month over month. Now, over here, what these numbers that we're looking at, this is year over year. Okay, because I didn't put in my month over month numbers for you to see. I apologize, guys. Sick household. I'm trying. So here's what's important for you to know. So I'm going to give you the month over month for March. 15, just straight down the line, as you see on the screen for median days of market. 15, 12, 14. And then we see April's 12, 9, and 11. What did we just learn, guys? What did we just learn? They're not sitting as long. And what did I tell you when we were talking about pending sales? Just because there may not be this overabundance of new listings does not mean that the buyers out there are not serious. They're coming in, they're putting them under contract at a higher ratio than they were last month and the month before and the month before that. They're closing them overall for the last few months at a higher rate. And now we're seeing, especially in April, they're selling faster. February, 19, 15, 21. January, 22, 21, 16. And then March, 15, 12, 14. And look at April, 12, 9, and 11. Guys, do you see this? These are people going out there. There are buyers who are saying, I don't care. I'm going to go buy that home and I'm going to buy it sooner than later. That could be you. That could be your sales. Those 3,703 closed sales, you really think you couldn't have had at least one of them? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You see what I'm saying? Okay? You got this, man. You got this. This is why I love doing this, okay? Because I hear the same bad news everybody else does. And my brain also, guys, I'm human. My brain goes to that place. Ooh, times are bad. Market's bad. Things are bad, 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 bad. It's hard not to. It's hard not to. Then I look at the data and I'm like, almost every single stat here is showing very positive things. Let's get to the last few stats that we cover. Medium supplies of homes for sale. This is not a big deal. I just want you guys to know we're kind of seeing pretty normal. So last month, 2.7, 2.7, 2.2. This month, 2.8, 2.9, 2.3. Okay. In other words, we got a little more inventory sitting on the market. So you have a little bit more time to buy. But remember, that does not mean your buyer should procrastinate, because we're seeing those who want to buy, they go get it done sooner than later. So your buyers who think, oh, things are sitting on the home, longer, understand that when a buyer finds the right home, statistically, it's showing us they're buying it right away. Okay. Now, one of my favorite ones to talk about, median percent of original list price. Okay. Again, this means they listed it for 300. How much did it actually sell for? How much did it close for? Here's awesome news. So let's go March right down the line. Median percent of list price is 98.2, 98.4, 98.6. And look at April, 98.7, 98.7, and 100%. And actually, I think my percentage over there is off, obviously, a little bit. But guys, you starting to notice the trends here? Buyers are actually more serious than ever. They're actually paying more than they were last month. So even though there is a lot of listings sitting on the market, and when I say a lot, I'm just saying from what we can tell, things are sitting longer. They're not sitting longer in a trend. The trend is saying they're selling sooner, and clients are willing to pay more than they were last month for those same ones. Okay, does that make sense? Now check this out. Let's look at February. Right down the line, 97.6, 97.5, 98.2. Let's look at January, 96.7, 96.7, 97.4. Let's even just for the heck of it go to December, 97.4, 98, 97.9. So in the last 5 months, we have had a steady trend upward in people paying list price or close to list price. Now, Larry, I got to ask you a question. Does that sound like a crash to you? You're muted.
Sorry about that. Yeah, no, it does not sound like a crash to me. It sounds like people are increasing their, or when I say people, I'm talking about the general population is increasing their desire to own homes and get in the market. And it's consistent. It's consistently going up since December, which of course was, I mean, let's be honest here. The last 5 months, the rates have been ugly, like really ugly, and it's still
And yet
trending up.
the sentiment trended up regardless.
Yep.
That is amazing. So here's what I love about this. When someone says the rates are too high, I say BS. Because the data does not support that mindset. And so you as agents should not support falsified statements. Now, that doesn't mean you shouldn't acknowledge them, support them, but understand you don't have to believe the lie because the data tells you the truth. And the truth is the actual overall sentiment is up, up, up.
Mhm.
It really is. Guys, you can go look up this data. You can fact check me. If I'm a liar, you can call me out. Right? I'm putting it out there for you to see. Okay? So now you know when you hear that objection, rates are too high, you know you got to dig deeper because they weren't too high for 3,733 people. And don't forget the pending sales. They weren't too high for those who bought sooner than later with the median days on market going down. They weren't too high for those paying more. So are the rates really too high, guys? Or are we just not diving deeper enough?
Yep.
Man, I'm fired up. I don't know about you. This stuff fires me up. You just give the middle finger to all that bad news out there because it ain't true. If it were, the numbers would show it.
Yes, they would.
Absolutely. All right, guys. So we're going to start to wrap this up, kind of segue out of here. So remember, at all times in your career as a real estate agent, you need to be able to answer 2 questions. On the spot, your little elevator pitch, right? Why is now a good time to sell? Why is now a good time to buy? Robert, nobody asked me those questions. No, that's all they ask you. Anytime they ask you any question about real estate, if they're a buyer, they're asking you why is now a good time to buy at the end of the day.
Mhm.
And if they're a seller, they're asking why is now a good time to sell. So at all times, and I mean this, at all times, standing in line at Home Depot and someone realizes you're a real estate agent and you're engaging in conversation, every question they ask is your opportunity to show them the truth. And the truth will set you free, right? Okay, guys, go set some people free with the truth. All right. So those thriving are, what are they doing? They're setting and they have specific goals for the year. They break them down into tasks needed on a monthly, weekly, and daily basis. Absolutely. This is what's happening. Those who are thriving, they are more meticulous, organized, and focused than ever. They know this data. They ain't afraid. You know what they're afraid of? That they're not going to capture as much as they possibly could because they only have so many hours in the day. Okay? Those who are struggling are aimless and uncertain about what they need to do each day to accomplish their goals. Those who are thriving are educating their clients by educating themselves. Let's be honest. Let's have a moment of transparency and humility here, guys. Who knew these numbers? And I'm talking about even in your local market. Who knew these numbers? Who knew the trends? Who knew that there was so much good news? Right? All right. Go educate yourself, because those who are struggling are doing nothing different or better than they did last year. They're relying on a model that already proved it was insufficient in producing the results they wanted.
Mhm.
Guys, slap yourself in the face and say, why am I repeating my same mistakes? Clearly, if I'm not where I want to be, what I'm doing is not working.
Mhm.
Maybe I need to change.
Mhm.
And then those who are thriving are humble. Oh, this cannot be stated enough. Being held accountable in a meaningful way, and even in moments of success, seeking advice from those ahead of them. Be humble. Be held accountable. Don't run away from it. For
Mhm.
those of you who are succeeding in this market, you know the danger, because those who are struggling are prideful. They're thinking they don't need to change, grow, or improve. They're lacking, even running from painful accountability. They don't want it. They go, well, that way doesn't work for me. I'm sorry, meaningful accountability doesn't work for you? Tell me where in the history of the world that has proven to be true. I would love to know. Well, I just do things my own way. Listen, if your own way is not producing the results that you want, then your own way is leading you down a path of destruction. Right? At the end of the day, there are core things I think we can all agree on. We need to have goals, clear, articulate, that are broken down simple enough to where each day we wake up and we have a rough idea of the important things we need to do that day. Agreed or disagreed? Drop in the comments. Number
Agreed.
2, we need to be held accountable to those goals. And I don't mean in the superficial, go lucky, where people pat you on the back when you fail. Do not pat someone on the back for failing. Say, listen, you had a goal. And it's okay, because you are human, but it's not okay to not change, to not fix this, to not do something about something that you said was important.
Mhm.
Right? So you need meaningful accountability that hurts right away, so that you don't do 6 months of bad habits and then just stave off that. Listen, addressing the disease early on is the highest success rate of curing it. Letting it fester and grow almost always leads to destruction. So get that accountability. Get those people around you who don't just hug you and say you're amazing all the time, but instead say, hey, listen, you did a good job here. You failed here. What are we going to do about it? How are we going to fix this? How can I support you? And then you in turn reciprocate that. Okay. All right. So what should you do now? Get out there and educate people. Continually educate yourself. Come to our live shows on Friday. We got real estate news. We talk about some of the noise out there and what you should be doing next. It's fun. We also laugh a whole bunch on that show. Come to sessions like this. In fact, run sessions like this. You know, I do it every first Monday of the month. Great. Every first Thursday of the month, you go out and do your own. Rip me off. It's okay. Go rip me off. Come to this one, take notes, copy and paste if you need to, if it's relevant. Go do your own version. Get out there, teach people, guide people, show them how this works.
Mhm.
What's the truth? And then you need to reevaluate who is around you. What are they doing to actually support you? Are they just celebrating you? Or are they also growing? Not only you, but with you, as in they themselves are growing. Because if the market shows a trend upward, shouldn't your business too?
Yep.
And if it's not, don't you think there's something that needs to be addressed? And here's
Yeah.
what I'm going to ask you. Who has called you out over the last 5 months when when the trends of your business are not going up, but the trends of the market are? Who's called you out? And you're probably going to look at that and go, well, my broker didn't call me out. My team leader didn't call me out. That agent that I go to lunch with every single day didn't call me out. These are people who are letting you sit and ride a declining path. Man, I want to ride with someone up, not down. So let's go up. What were you going to say, Larry?
I was saying that it's trending up for me. Applications are up, loans are up, right? So I'm seeing a trend upwards. And I mean, I'm not saying that I'm doing anything special. I'm making
You
myself
are special,
available.
though.
Well, I appreciate that, but I'm saying that I'm just kind of reacting to what's happening here, right? I'm doing the work. I believe I'm doing the work to be able to take advantage. Like what's the saying? The harder I work, the luckier I get, right?
Yeah,
I feel like I'm
great
getting
thing.
lucky, but because I'm doing the work to get lucky, right? So again, I'm not saying I'm doing anything special, but
What's
I
that song? The let's stay up all night to get lucky. Isn't that
yeah, the
uh
Pharrell.
is that who it is?
Yes, Pharrell. Yes.
You know, obviously that song's inappropriate, but if you put it in the context of business, it's like staying up and studying charts and like learning and growing and
Oh,
doing the work.
it is inappropriate, but it's a really motivating song. It's saying that he's out there hustling to get lucky. Yes, 100%. And that's what I'm doing, right? And that's I say I'm not saying that I'm doing anything special again, but I am putting in the work, and I think that if you put in the work, you will also get a uptick in your business because you're making yourself available. And right now, the purge is happening, and as long as you're still active, you'll survive the purge, and that's all that really matters.
Yeah, you see, that's a very good point. Okay, guys. So listen, remember, if you guys are willing to share, do me a favor. Drop in the chat how many homes you need to sell a year to meet your goal. 10, 20, 30, whatever. Drop in the chat how many homes you need to sell. And Larry, would you be willing to do the same for me? You can just say it out loud here, obviously. But like, I know you've got goals. I know you're looking for them. What's your goal for the year for closed loans?
I really want to. When I don't talk about units, I talk about volume, right? Because
Okay. Yeah. Volume's fine too.
yeah, because my volume could be different. I mean, my units could be different. I could do one loan and still get enough volume, right?
Right.
But my volume is to do at least 1 million a month, so 12 million for the year. I would say I'm about maybe uh 2 million, maybe almost 3 million for 5 months. So I'm a little bit behind, but I'll catch up towards the end of the year. I already know this.
Love it.
Yep.
So here's why I asked, okay? And again, please drop a comment, guys, of how many homes you need to sell generally. Let's just say, this is where we can say an average, by the way. Just on average, how many homes you need to sell a year to hit your goal, okay? Don't skyrocket. I mean, just be realistic, okay? Sarah's looking at 18. So here's the thing, right? Sarah, thank you for posting that. I'm going to ask you a question. Is 3,777 homes enough to cover 18? Now imagine we kept that trend. Let's just be conservative, Larry, and just say it's 3,000 homes a month being sold, right? That's
Yes.
obviously way under. The trend has shown it's way more than that. That means that's 36,000 opportunities in a year to hit 18.
Yep.
Right? I guess that's technically not correct because 18 is a whole, but you know what I'm saying.
Right.
The actual would be, what is that? 2,000 opportunities in a year to sell 18 groups of homes, but it sounds better to say 36,000. So 36,000. Should you be afraid then that there's not enough buyers and there's not enough listings?
No.
Guys, we could take that and cut it in half. Okay? And what does that leave us? Divided by 2, and there we go. We're looking at 18. Is that still enough? Let's take that and cut it in half. 9,000. Is that still enough for 18? Let's cut it in half again, guys. That leaves with 4,500. Is that enough for 18? Larry, is that enough for your goal?
Yeah, 100%.
Is that enough for every agent listening in? Is it enough? 36,000 opportunities. And those are just the ones that are documented, right? There are numerous other opportunities that if agents went in out, they could create them. Right? So my point is, there is no reason why you should not be able to hit your goals unless your goals are 36,000 units. Now you might be stretching it a bit.
Yep.
Okay. But if top teams in your market can sell 2,100 homes and be up year over year already, you can too. If solo agents are having some of their best years yet, if we've got new agents that are coming in here outselling senior agents, that says something. And what I'm trying to tell you guys, don't be afraid. Don't have that scarcity mindset.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. And people are saying, hey, trends are going up, which means whether you believe it or not, people want to buy a home right now. They do. They really do. You really think they like renting with their rent going up in a home that's in an apartment that's smaller than the home they could buy for roughly the same price? Nobody's happy with that. So if your listing is moving slow, real quick, double check your price, comp supported, competitive for the market, recently evaluated. Okay. We see the trends, know the trends, so you know what's normal. Remember, buyers don't actually care about price, they care about payments. That is so statistically true. That is why in Larry's job, and I'll let him chime in, but in Larry's job, he breaks it down into payments. Because people don't even understand what price means. They understand payments.
Mm-hmm.
What's that going to cost me a month?
Yes.
Agreed, Larry?
Yes, 100%. I even whenever I provide my data, my information, my presentation, I break it down in payments. I don't even talk about rates. I talk about payments. If they ask the rate, of course I'm gonna tell them, but there's no real need to talk about it when you're not when this is a pre-approval, so I don't even have a contract yet, right? Why would I tell them the rate on a house that they don't even have under contract? The rate's gonna be different by the time they get under contract. So I just tell them what the payment would be in the neighborhood, right? Using the rates, of course. And if they are acceptable to that, then let's go. If they're not, then we have to have a different conversation. But
That's
really,
right.
affordability is all that really matters.
So remember, guys, if you're a listing agent and you've got a listing and it's moving slow, or you're about to take a listing, you should know the numbers. What do the numbers tell you? Your home should be selling fairly fast. And again, comps, what did I say? Comp supported. But overall, your home should be selling faster than before. Okay. Median list price, especially if you're in Rutherford, sitting at 100% month over month. Okay. You know what the home's worth. You know what's a reasonable offer. A reasonable offer might be 98%, because overall in the MLS, 98.7% is. This stuff's important because this is how you teach your listing the truth. When they get an offer and it's below that 100% mark of what they wanted, and they go, how dare they? You can learn, walk them through and go, listen, yeah, I know, but here's what we're seeing in the market, right? So I just want you to know that buyer, they're falling right in line with the average buyer. They're falling right in line with probably the next 10 people who are going to come through here. So don't take it personal, because they don't know. They don't know. Do you know, though? Do you know? And can you set proper expectations? And then remember, sometimes you as a listing agent, if the deal's worth it, need to help create solutions for the buyer. I have recommended loan programs that they look into. I have recommended, not to the buyer directly, always through the other agent, of course, respectfully. What I'm saying is work to put a good deal together, and understand that oftentimes when someone's not buying a home, it's because they're worried about the payments. You can help with that. You can help with that. Just be smart. If your buyers are uncertain, first of all, get them pre-approved, guys. That helps with the majority of the uncertainty that they'll have. I
Yep.
promise you.
Mhm.
It'll just tell them the truth. Verified income, verified expenses, verified assets. This is where you're at. Okay, clear picture. Now, what can we do with that? What's the different types of loans, grants, secondary loans for down payment assistance? What can we do and work with this? Remember, they're not worried about price. They're worried about payments. Larry, true or false? If I came to you and I said, this $300,000 home is going to cost you $13,000 a month, would you kind of be shocked and be like, what the crap?
Yep. 100% shocked for sure.
Now, if I came to you and say, you can have this luxurious $1 million home and it'll cost you $1,000 a month, would you consider it?
Of course, 100%.
Well, wait a second. I thought you were worried about price,
No, I'm not. I'm worried about the monthly payment.
right?
Yeah,
Guys, that's how you know. Anybody who tells you they're worried about price, guaranteed if you gave them that scenario, they would side with the lower payment every single time, unless they were rich and they got all technical and just wanted to stump you and be like, well, maybe if it was I'll pay off the home. And we're talking about the average person. The average person is going to turn around and be like, bro, if I can get $1 million home for $1,000 a month, I'm going to take that all day long.
absolutely.
So my point is, remember, it's not price, it's payments. So you need to be strategic. You need to be with a loan officer who knows that and explores every option and is competitive and is watching the numbers to see when the best time is to lock that rate to get their monthly payment as low as possible. You need an insurance provider who is competitive and extremely skilled at what they do to get their payments low on that. Because remember, a pity loan, principal, interest, taxes, and what did I say? What did I miss? Principal,
Principal,
ta
taxes, interest, and insurance.
insurance. Thank you. I literally just said insurance too.
Yes,
Right? You get everybody involved who touches the payment to help get that payment as low as possible, as reasonable as possible, and you're going to convert more buyers. Absolutely. And you're going to stand out amongst the crowd.
yeah. When I ask questions during the interview process before I take an application, I ask them what's their price range, but I also ask them what their rent is and what their monthly payment they're comfortable with. That way, I know what they're looking for. They might have a totally skewered. I want a $500,000 house, but I want $1,000 payment. That's when I become the reality seller, right? Like
Mhm.
agents, they sell the dream. We sell the reality, right? So I'm gonna make it sure they know what they're getting. So, I'm like, hey, you know what? You can get a $500,000 house, but it's cost you this much. Are you okay with that? And make sure they're fine with it. If they're not, then we have to change the pre-approval, pre-qualification, whatever. So I have many clients who qualify for 2, 3, 4,000 a month, but they only want $1,000 payment. So there has to be a conversation there for sure.
Exactly. All right, guys, drop your questions in the comments as we finish up the last few slides for you, okay? So drop your questions. Any questions you have about the interest rates, the market, objections, and things like that, drop them in the comments. If you're on a replay, tell us that you're watching the replay and leave some comments for us. We try to be really good about going back and helping you. This is all about serving you, helping you. So let's talk about, Larry was talking about reality. Let's talk about the harsh reality. The harsh reality is, what do you believe as their agent? What you believe will directly influence them, your clients. But guess what? It doesn't just influence your clients. It influences the agents that you talk to, the agents that overhear you. It influences people who might not even be thinking about buying a home. It influences your community. I have said this 1,000 times before. The power of an impactful agent, I think, is greater than any city council member. I think it's greater because the reality is that we have direct access to the number one tool for changing generational wealth forever, and that is real estate. How you wield that affects everything that you do. It will literally change your community, guys, if we do this right. So you've got to get in, look in the mirror and say, what do I believe? Do you find yourself believing people aren't buying because they can't afford to? People are waiting for interest rates to come down. Sellers don't want to list because the value of their home is too low. People don't want to buy or sell because they believe the market crash is coming. The data literally just showed you that all those things are false. So do you think you should believe that? Are you still going to believe that? Or are you going to go out there and preach the truth? Preach the truth. And it starts with you as the agent. You know what the real game changer is? You. You're the game changer. You're the game changer. And then your lender, arguably the most important partner you have through the process, they're a game changer. The two of you against the market should be able to come up with a solution for near everyone. It doesn't mean it'll be great, but one that works. The possibilities are unbelievable. I'm going to bring up a scenario one time. I want to give credit to Tyler McCain, shouting out to you over in Lebanon, Tennessee, who helped me on a loan. Larry, have you genuinely curious? Have you ever heard of a Chenoa loan?
Mm-hmm. We need
Okay.
to know loans all over the country. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. You're pretty informed. I had never heard of a Chenoa loan. So listen, I had this client: bankruptcy, divorce, bad credit. But he met a criteria that I require, which is, does he listen to my instruction and do the work I tell him to do? If he does, I will work with you even if you have bad credit. I will not work with you if you have good credit and don't listen, because we can't get anywhere. You're going to sabotage it. But if you will listen, we're going to succeed. So here's the thing. He went through like 5 or 6 lenders prior to me, and could not get pre-approved, which you can imagine why. Okay.
Yep.
I worked with him for 2 years before he was ready. I taught him how to build his credit because, again, he listened. So he built his credit up. But guess what, guys? When you build your credit up, that doesn't mean you miraculously make more money. So he could never come up with the closing costs. And I am a huge advocate for admitting that I think closing the gap on closing costs is really hard. You can make good money, but still not have $40,000 lying around. Where's that supposed to come from? Right? So I had one loyal lender, good lender, that I referred to him initially, and they couldn't do it. I didn't stop as an agent. I called lender after lender and painted a picture. I didn't make them do it because I knew that would weigh so heavy. That rejection is so hard. Okay. And then I found a lender who said, let me look into it. He called me a week later and he said, I've been doing some research on this guy. I gave him some client information, right? I think he might qualify for a Chenoa loan. I said, what the crap did you just say? The crap is a Chenoa loan? It has to do with Chia Pets? Like, I don't understand. Right? Chernobyl? Where are we going with this?
Right.
He went through the painstaking process. And here's the beautiful part. I won't say his last name, but I'll say first name to my client, Jason. Him and his wife and his kids have lived in their home now for 2-3 years. And they used a Chenoa loan. Relentless pursuit of what is best for your clients. Don't take your job lightly. And I believe, and helps me sleep better at night, knowing that I helped, at least in the minor way that I could, to change the course of Jason's life where others didn't. They just didn't. Other people could have made calls to loan officers. Other people could have researched more. I like Larry says, I'm not special. I'm just diligent, consistent. When I make a commitment, I make a commitment. And now Jason's life is changed. Now, I don't know all the extents and I can't control, but I can control the parts that I can control. Now, imagine we went and did that for 100 Jasons. You really think your community wouldn't change? You really think that his kids, their kids, I should say, that their futures wouldn't change? Do you know what the second number one reason people divorce? Larry, you know this. Go ahead.
The second reason,
number one is communication. Number 2 is
finances, money.
Finances. And I've talked about this, but this is why I get emotional about this, because this is why I am in real estate. This is why I believe so much in what I do. We could literally help the divorce rate in this world go down if we just did our job well.
I believe that. Yes.
That makes me want to cry in a good way, right? I'm not saying that you can stop people from getting divorced. I'm saying you can help to alleviate one of the most significant burdens that they carry that push them to these extremes. So go out there and be life changers by just being good, honest, informed real estate agents.
Honestly, I thought finances was the number one reason. That's why I was confused. But number 2, maybe.
It's the number one material reason, right? But in reality, if you go into counseling sessions and polls, it's communication, lack of communication.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of broke couples that are still together, even though they're broke. So yeah, I can see that argument.
Yep.
They're happily broke.
Right, and there's a bunch of rich people who are divorced.
100%. You're right.
Right? So, guys, I hope that you found value today. I hope you saw the good news because there was a lot of good news. I am a happy camper, man. I'm so pleasantly surprised. I hope you're happy. I hope you're encouraged. Leave a comment with your opinion, though, please, of this show. It takes time and work. There's multiple people who pour effort into preparing for you today. I take an hour and a half to 2 hours out of my day. Larry did the same thing, and others do this to prepare this for you. So please leave a comment with your honest feedback on, did we help you save time? Maybe save some money? Maybe make some money? Become a better local expert, increase your client loyalty. Overall, did we bring you value? And then what's one thing you'd like to see more of? What's one thing that you're like, I absolutely love this. Please do more of this, right? Do you think anything was missing? Hey, I noticed you didn't talk about this. I think this would be great. Let us know, because this was free, but your messages, your encouragement, your comments, when you share this with people, it really encourages Larry and I to keep going, right? It ain't your dollars. By the way, I do want them. I'll gladly take them. But this started from a heart of service first, right? So I hope this brought you value. Let's go into May and absolutely crush it.
Yep, 100%. I'm excited for May for sure.
Dude, I'm so excited. So thank you for attending, guys. Make sure to like, follow, subscribe, and share. Yes, even share right now because it's a replay wherever you go, because your clients need to hear this. Other agents need to hear this. Don't forget that even though you may be competing, quotation marks, with other agents, what they say out loud affects the market as a whole. How well they do their job changes the sentiment of how someone believes you might do their job initially.
Mhm.
So you even educating other agents is good for you. It helps to warm up the audience, if you will, as a whole. It helps to change the perception of our industry and the market as a whole. So do not be shy to share this with others.
Yes. If you change the narrative, it'll make your life easier no matter what.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. Don't forget that every Friday we go live with Scale Through the Fail, real estate news, noise, and what's next. 9 a.m. Central. We talk about all sorts of things, and we have a ton of fun while we do it. We got memes, reacts, controversial topics that we discuss. It is a blast, and it's a great way to also get weekly updates on what's happening. And of course, Larry is there giving you what the mortgage is going on week over week. And then month over month, we do this session here. And if there was a great way to aggregate an average or a median across the US, I would love to do a national version of this, but there is just, it's part of why I can't stand, by the way, all the little mafia MLSs over here. But there's really not a good way to aggregate honest feedback on a month-to-month basis for housing. So that's why I choose Tennessee. But you can go do this in your local market. So just learn the way that I do it, what I'm saying, what I'm thinking, and what the numbers are that I'm looking for and why. And then just go fill in the blanks with your MLS's numbers, okay? I encourage you guys. I support you guys. I'm excited. Leave a comment. Again, please leave a comment. Tell us what you thought of the show, the good, the bad, the ugly. And then let's give an extra round of applause for Larry coming on the show last second for me. I always do this to him. And jumping on and dedicating his time for free to serve you guys. Larry, thank you so much. I appreciate you.
No problem. It's fun, and I love helping people. So thanks for the opportunity.
I'll see you, buddy. See you Friday.
Thanks, man. Talk to you later.
Thank you, everyone, for tuning in again. I am your host, Robert Bean, and that was a special episode of Scale Through the Fail, where we talk about real estate's market in Tennessee. But again, 99% of it is applicable to every market in the U.S. as far as the reasoning, the understanding, the principles, and the truths. I can't wait to hear back from you. And thank you so much for all that you've done to support your communities, your families, your neighbors. You are world changers by just beginning with individual life changers. I will see you next month and hopefully on Friday.